Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Life Choices podcast.
Yeah!
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode here on the Life Choices podcast. Today, I'm bringing to the episode a good friend of mine, djkidkarter.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for coming out, sir.
I can just be Carter today. That's
just
fine
Carter?
too.
Okay.
That's fine today,
well,
too.
fair enough. It's going to be DJ Kid Carter underneath for
There's
like...
no music in front of me.
Nothing.
Well, I'll be normal for a little while.
All right. Awesome.
No air horn button.
No.
No beep, beep. I don't have it on
no
me.
smoke either.
No.
Awesome.
Without all the effects, I'm pretty normal.
All right. There's no cape on today.
No cape. I wore the white glasses just in case you couldn't see me. I don't know.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. I'm getting into some serious shit right off the top. If you could do us a favor and just real briefly, 30 seconds, let our audience know a little bit about yourself.
I'm Harrison Carter, resident DJ at a bunch of locations all around Palm Beach, as well as I traveled. I've been a DJ actually since I was 16. I skipped out on like homecoming dates to try to be a DJ. Like my band director was like, this kid's got it. He's got music. So I've always loved music. I went in the Air Force for a little while. I did private sector IT work. I lived up in Atlanta and I worked in clubs and production up there, built a couple places up. And then I moved down here with some family and fell in love with the place. I came down here for the actual last Buzz Bake Sale and listened to like all those amazing bands like Boss Tone, stuff like that. And I remember all my friends that I didn't even know yet were like, hey, we got this extra ticket to this bake sale thing. And I remember coming down and it was like Amphitheater. I think it was Cruzan at the time, maybe, or whatever it was before that. Came down here, fell in love with the area, listened to the music, the sunsets, and I was like, Florida works. Florida works for me.
I don't want to use the word trap, but anyone that comes here tends to fall in love with it. I'm from my viewership knows that I'm from Canada, from Toronto, and I come in and out of the port here in South Florida due to working on yachts. But I love it. The weather, it's
The
what
weather,
keeps me
the
coming
water,
back.
the nature. You can step 5-10 minutes outside of a very metro area and you're essentially back in nature here too.
Yeah. So
like
what was it like then, since you grew up in such a diverse musical family?
Well, we moved a lot and that had an impact on like I got to live in Italy.
Wow.
And we were stationed
where in Italy?
So we were in the Heel.
Okay.
Which was an Air Force base that's not there anymore, called Brindisi.
Okay.
And it was actually San Vito was the name of the base, but it was outside of the town of Brindisi. But we would drive. We were about an hour away from Naples, maybe maximum, and we could get to Rome in about 3 or 4. Like people don't understand. Most of Europe is as close as half of the U.S.
Dude, you can see on the map there, I've done quite a bit of Europe.
Yeah, I see it.
So when I was there, it was like, you decide where you want to go when you wake up. You hop on a train.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty accessible.
I used to blow people's minds when I've been like, my first grade field trip, people are like, all right, we're going to Rome. What do you mean you're going to Rome? We're just going to hop on, they take charter buses everywhere. Yeah. Like they grow on trees. But you would hop on an express bus to Rome, and our teacher would be telling us about it all the way. We'd get there. We'd see we'd see the Parthenon. We would see the Colosseum. We'd be walking through ancient pillars and then just go back home like it was nothing.
Like no big deal.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of arm bases and Air Force bases all up and down, like the middle central part of Europe. That's where the alliances were. So we would skip up to Germany. Like my first experience camping was in the German Black Forest. Right side of an Air Force base, and it was pouring down rain, and I still had the time of my life. We lived all over the U.S. as well. We lived in Ohio. I've lived in Mississippi. I went to college out in Colorado, visited California, places like that.
Wow, you've really been around.
Yeah, so we got to live in a lot of different dynamics. You would live like up in Ohio. It's very quiet, like it's small town world kind of sort of. And the base was like the biggest thing in the city. And then you live in Mississippi where there's a base, there's casinos, there's a coastline, there's water that people don't swim in. It's very different on the Gulf Coast. You have a lot of economic spectrums too. Like Mississippi was, I think, the first place I experienced like upfront kind of overt non-racist racism.
Okay.
Because it's just an older mindset. Like like when you hear people say they can't help it, they've been that way their whole life. And you think like down in Florida, there's no way you've been this way your whole life. In Mississippi, they've been that way their whole life. And changing that opinion was one of my young goals.
Right.
I remember coming into high school being a fresh sounding, I didn't have a Southern accent. I didn't come to school with one. So being a very well-spoken African-American guy. I remember setting different trends, being in different clubs that nobody was in.
Right. And also to shed light on that, you're of an age where this was happening, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I graduated high school in 2003.
Right. So this is like late 90s, early 90s, late 90s.
Yeah, so this is coming into that era of like what I would call the reunification of the United States, when the internet started to bridge the gap between what was happening and what people saw was happening.
Right, which is a big thing. We're going to get back to that point, actually, how the internet actually did kind of put a bit more of a light on what is truth out there from an aspect of now we can see more things.
Yes.
You are one of a couple DJs that I've already had on the Life Choices podcast. We had DJ Nick Flash,
I know
shout
Nick
out.
very well. Yeah.
And we had DJ Murkum.
Yep.
Shout out there. And actually, next week I have Cosmo.
Ooh, Mr. Cos.
Yeah, he's coming in on Monday to do some filming. And I have one more DJ that has reached out to say she is ready to come on, but has not confirmed a date yet.
I think
so. I'm gonna wait before
Get some
shouting out
yeah.
on her. But I really do want her because I would love to have the female
perspective
on
especially
everything.
on the industry, because she encounters stuff, and a lot of the female DJs that are very successful, they encounter a completely different side of not only just the musical industry, but industry as a whole. Like the female perspective is often overlooked or assumed.
Right.
And
right.
I do admonish a lot of people for that. Who like,
I mean, she's grinded. We're not going to get too much about her until she comes on, but she's grinded to a point where she was one of those people that took a leap of faith on herself and created an entire brand for herself, and she is constantly on the go. I digress. My point is, you grew up in a musical family. You grew up in an Army family, which is
Air Force.
Air Force, sorry.
We're the same. We just passed tests.
Right. I don't want to diminish anyone that does anything, any service
shout
for
out
their
to each
country.
and every person that
Absolutely.
actually is all my armed forces, like brethren and non-brethren, they are sacrificing their lives for the
Absolutely, yeah. So being that your father was a military man, it's a very specific type of discipline, and that usually comes down on the children as well, as you are, a result of their education and their work life. But you've become a DJ, which, I've asked the other DJs, like, what was that like for the parents? Like, was there support? Was there, no, don't do that, I want you to go after this first and have this in your back pocket? Like what was that conversation like for you?
I would say more so from my home perspective was always, be a professional. If you're a professional DJ, that's fine, but be a professional one. Like, don't take a hobby for a career path, and don't mistake a passion for your job. Because a lot of people are passionate about something and it might not be their job. It might not be what they do to live, but it's something you can live to do. Like, being a DJ is an amazing opportunity and a career path for me. But if I didn't take it seriously, I don't think my parents would have taken it seriously.
Right.
And I've done other things. Like, it's not as if I rely on my brain a lot. I do love, I love computers. I can take something apart and put it together. Like tinkering with cars, I'll be in the shop or work like that. But at the end of the day, the joining of music and psychology is ultimately why I do what I do. I love being able to play a song and see everybody go, oh.
Well, that's the respect I gave on our episode with DJ Nick Flash. Was I'm an individual who has gone in my youth, in my 20s, and went to the after-hour clubs that we had in Ottawa, Ontario, and fell in love with what was happening because the DJ was able to take me away to somewhere else. And I understood back then that they were feeding off the energy I was giving them as much as I was feeding off the energy they were giving me.
Absolutely.
And for a good DJ to read the room, and I understand there's parameters sometimes according to the establishment you're in. They want certain music, they want a certain vibe, they want a certain clientele. But with all that already on your shoulders, you're able to take that information, create a set that, okay, this is the set I'm going to do tonight. But then during that set, you're able to maneuver and pivot to the way that the crowd is vibing off you. And, maybe you zone in on one or two people and you're like, all right, I'm going to get them. And you start mixing it up, and then you bring it up, and all of a sudden you've just changed their life. For me, those nights were I'm always going to remember those nights and dancing to those songs because of where it elevated me to.
It's a mental correlation that and it's something in everybody's brain that we have an attachment of a memory and then things that are triggered for that memory. So like and this goes like, I'll take a song, for example, Dancing Queen. Okay. It's an older song that has made a resurgence.
Yeah.
In back in the day when you would put Dancing Queen on, you would see every other woman in the crowd, arms out, melodically flowing, face up to whatever lights that were going on, embracing that moment that nobody cares about anything but just you dancing. You just dance and you're beautiful. And it's come in full circle. I don't even know how old that song is. I don't want to date myself.
I want to say that's from the disco era.
Yeah, it's definitely it's back in the four on the floor disco era,
early 70s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's ABBA. But when you bring that to like now, you on the right night, I can play disco. I can play Dancing Queen and young girls of our generation and below.
I was going to say below our generation.
I was saying,
I'm not
young
in the bar
girls.
too
Yeah,
much.
I don't even say. We're in that next bracket.
Yeah, we're in the, are you really here still?
Right.
Yeah.
But when you play that song and you see 20 somethings or even teens that are like, ooh, Dancing Queen. And you realize that they're still embracing that same mental attachment to the song that their mothers, if not grandmothers, might have.
Yeah.
And it is. And it is a timeless flow that gives and takes from everybody. That, like you said, when you have that memory of those songs that take you back to that moment, or even let you relive that moment when you blink.
Absolutely.
And that's why you have generations of all ages, like on dance floors, at parties. I mean, I get to play festivals, which is some of the most, it's soul refilling, if you will, to look out on a crowd like at Sunfest and you have young and old and you play the right song and everybody's like, yes. You see people sometimes, you'll see somebody push their kid out the way. You know nothing about how amazing this song makes me feel. You see kids look at their parents like, oh, you too, mom?
Yeah.
Or mom or dad or whatever. And then, but you also have a younger generation that is as much into it as we are, and you see them experiencing it for the first time, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the music itself. The good music is timeless.
Yes.
But as a human, the memories you create through music also is timeless. So that memory that the mom has from that song and the memory that the daughter, let's say, is creating at totally different decades in time brings them to like a level
playing
playing
anchor that
field.
point for you. Like you said, you can remember the particular after hours.
It was drum and bass
Right.
on the main floor. About 1:32 in the morning, whenever that DJ came on their set, and to be honest, I was on drugs. And it was when the height.
Well, you said drum and bass. I thought it was assumed, but
yeah. Well, there's whatever. And it was like right at that kind of like that heightened moment where it's about to hit you, and all of a sudden they just played that right track, and it was like I didn't give a fuck.
Oh, absolutely.
I just danced.
And
for
I will
6
say
hours.
drum and bass is one of those. It's a massively influential non-mainstream genre.
Yeah, and apparently it's coming back.
Yes.
Right.
Well, you've got guys, I'm trying to think of, you've got guys like Skrillex and Diplo who, while they're spread out across their genres, like Diplo touches every single genre of music he possibly can. They give a lot of respect to that genre bringing the purity of music back a lot of times. Like just like house, a lot of times people are like, with house you want that 4 on the floor, you want a vocal. With drum and bass you need that, it makes you get back into the music.
Yeah,
you don't have to have a phone out and enjoy the lyrics of a drum and bass song. It could just be the
what my favorite is. We're going to touch on this for a quick second, then we're going to get to the next topic. But my favorite thing, and this is actually a goal in my life, I'll get into that in a sec, but when I was out listening to good DJs, and most of it's just music, you're sampling from, back then, vinyl. I've now realized how difficult it is to do it nowadays, like with just the computer type stuff. Oh, yeah. You still have to sample from applications, the actual vinyl, which is on the internet, and then bring that in to make the scratching and all that. I get it. It's not as easy. People are like, oh, you're just hitting buttons. No, motherfucker. There's a lot more behind it.
Yeah, no, if you spend 3 to 5 hours just pulling samples for one Ableton track just to make it sound amazing, you might have the track that's just the normal, But to bring that up to the level that you want it to be for a presentable club track or
Right.
anything like that, it takes so much.
Yeah.
And you can't just put a platter on and like grab a piece and put another platter on
There's
and grab
intricacies
a piece. Yeah.
behind it, especially with the computer element in it that I understand because I've done a sampling with a friend of mine to get the intro music for the podcast. When I was on the floor dancing and I was vibing and I was just having a good time and just, just shuffling around the floor, it's when they brought not words from a track, but their own words to it, where they would start talking to the audience like children of the night. And they just start bringing you up with, as we're bringing the music up, and they were just saying words that were hitting you in that moment because you were in such a zone of euphoria. And then they would just like say that one last word and then hit that switch and it would just go boom. It took me to another place. Absolutely. I love that stuff. So what I meant by it's something I want to do later in life is once I become so visible and my voice is loved by so many, I want to pair with a DJ at a festival.
Absolutely.
And not even be seen. Like I don't even need to be seen because it's just the voice I want to have. While they're doing a track, I want to just be like speaking to the audience because I want to feel what you guys feel when you have that crowd and when you just turn it up or turn it down and you're making them physically move a certain way, all 100,000, 10,000 people.
You've seen that devilish grin in my face. Yeah. Like when you guys are walking, like they've visited me many a time. I don't have to tell you, but you visited me many a time in the middle of the booth when I'm already spinning in circles, yelling at the crowd. And you guys come up and you're like, it's about 400 people here jumping for no bouncing, damn reason. I'm like, wait, hold on. Let's get them to not bounce. And I'll get everybody to stop for a minute, think about their life, high five their best friend, wiggle their toes or whatever the case may be. And then when you build that back up and you go, all right, I want everybody to jump one to the right when the beat drops and then just go crazy.
And you see it.
And then you're just like, cool.
It's such a feeling.
We are all connected by this one point.
Yeah.
And for one brief moment in the timelines of infinity and how we all are strings on the guitar of life, that's one moment when we're all on the exact same note.
Everyone in that arena right there.
Just for that one moment, it's just
vibing
one
together.
strum. Exactly. One quick strum. Yeah. Just one. And even if you take it apart from there on out, even if nothing else aligns the rest of that night,
that was the moment.
There's that moment.
And that's what I want to do. I want to have that feeling just once in my life, on a large platform, like on a large festival or whatever. And just those inspirational words that I have for myself or for others that I know I could just bring a crowd up with the music and then just drop that one sentence and they're just like, and they'll remember that.
If I produced more house, I would probably use your voice on intro stuff as it is. Cause I know my voice is nice, not smooth. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like I've always had this voice. I've worked in music and long enough to know what my voice sounds like. It doesn't bother me anymore. I hear myself, me, I MC events. I do like everything from car shows to TV stuff. I've done a lot of voice work as well. And I have found that I know what kind of voice I have. I have like that 5% caffeine, 15% chocolate, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Sounds like he didn't grow up in the southern states, but doesn't know a whole lot of the northern ones. Like I've been called audioly ambiguous, I think is the term that somebody in radio used. And it's like we can play you in any market.
Gotcha.
And I've always been very okay with that. My voice is not raspy. I'm sure you can't even hear the effects of whatever things that I've smoked over my life, but that's fine.
Right. Yeah.
But I've never smoked cigarettes, so I don't have the roughness but I think some people genuinely have a more, like you have what I would consider like a weighted blanket of a voice.
Okay.
Like, of course it's comfortable, but it's holding you there to be comfortable. Like it's got support in it outside of just the tone. Does that make sense?
All right. I'll take that as a big compliment.
Absolutely. Sure. Very much so. Like if I put on a track and I was like, before time there was thought, and like people would be like, yeah, he sounds like he's teaching a class.
Before time there was thought.
See, when you say it, it's like, okay, cool. What's the next page? Like, I would have you read my books to me.
Yeah,
that would be great.
That's actually something I have to do. I have to take my book, Meet Me Where I Met You, and turn it into an Audible book because I've come to the realization that more people want an Audible book, not a tangible one.
I think you have the intelligence to be unbiased about your own production. Yeah, and that's important.
Yeah,
most of society cannot be unbiased about themselves.
Well, that's a big reason why season 2 now looks the way it does, because I watched the first 23 episodes that were I had help with the editing and the production and the setting up and everything like that. And like I said earlier, the room was set up according to what I like rather than what is good for the podcast.
Yeah.
And that's what happens sometimes with people, is they set things up according to what they like and not what the demographic might want. And so I did the research and I switched things, colors, lighting.
Well, you also have you have a what I would call a visually understanding podcast. A lot of podcasts, if you close your eyes, you just see people in an office room sitting around a round table talking into some speakers like it's an NPR broadcast on radio.
Yeah.
You just, oh, hey, welcome to, we're going to have the spaghetti hour. And in reality, podcasts are supposed to be a peek into a conversation between people.
Right.
And it's the interest in that podcast is learning and gleaming off of that conversation. It's not eavesdropping for once.
No,
It's not.
We're inviting
Exactly.
people in.
We're having
Absolutely.
this conversation in public on a forum and on a platform, but it's a platform that is not only easily palatable to everyone, but also you can consume it in the medium you want. Like if people watch it, they watch it and they'll sit there and look through it and they'll go, yeah, people want it on in the background.
To feel welcome to come into my environment, you know.
And people take podcasting and introspective learning, music, all those things, and sometimes they only categorize it as entertainment, and it's not. It's interactive. There's as much about the crowd and the people. Like I tell people as a DJ, the music is very important, but with no people, the music has nowhere to go.
Right. Absolutely.
And podcasts are amazing. Getting to talk to you, like this is long as you and I have gotten to talk without someone either interrupting one of us, both of us, and or shots going across our face. But we get to share that with everyone who's watching, who's listening, and know that we want them to.
Yeah, and they get to learn about us. Obviously, me a bit more because I'm here every week. The guests are here for an hour, so they get to learn a lot more if they pay attention to everything that's going on around. Is even though I've changed up the color scheme and the way the podcast is set up, it's still very me.
Well, no matter what you change about the look of the room, if you're sitting in a chair, if you're in front of a microphone and it's your voice that people hear consistently, that alone should grow.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the consistency that people become familiar with. Like,
and I'll take this to your genre of life, which is the consistency of you creating good music over years of effort has created a following that you can go to different bars and different restaurants and different festivals and whatnot, and there will be crowds there. Sure, there'll be hundreds of others that might not know who you are because they're going to be now new joiners, but there's going to be a crowd of people that do know your music because they've followed you forever because you've put in the time and effort to your craft to really excel at it.
Absolutely. There are no limitations on music unless you put limits on it.
And I was going to say, there's no limitations on yourself unless you limit yourself. And that's the biggest thing is we are our own limitations.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to limit yourself on anything, it's, in my opinion, stupid. There's nothing wrong with saying, like the most masculine man can say they love Shania Twain or they love Beyonce. Like that those people are talented fucking musicians or singers. There's nothing wrong with it. Like lightning's not going to come down and strike you and kill you because you like that and it doesn't fit what your image is.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, they don't reach that level of thought until they have either enough money or enough personal or financial success to take a break from their own defensiveness to go, the rest of the world needs something too. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when you're doing what it is you're trying to do to be successful, all of us, you oftentimes it becomes like they say it is the rat race. You realize you're competing with the guy next to you, but competition makes you better.
Competition builds character, and I'm not saying that business is cutthroat. Becoming good at something is cutthroat. You have to be better than the next person. I shouldn't say you have to be better. You have to be more obsessed than the next person to become the better person. You have to have a drive. Yeah. But I think the most successful people out there that have created such success and wealth have done so because they've gone through hell already. And people don't really understand what that means. to seriously become great at what you want to do, and I'm on my way there. There are some people that are like, well, why should I watch your stuff or listen to your stuff? You're on your first startup. It's like, yeah, 100% I am. But what I'm asking people to do is stay with me for the
Not
journey.
only that, but that is a very limited perspective. Like you said, this is your first startup in this.
Exactly. I'm very successful at what I've done for my whole life. I've done cooking for over 30 years. I've done 15, going into 16 years working as a private yacht chef. Clearly that has credibility in itself.
Absolutely.
I'm starting out new in this because I want to get to that same level in the next 10 to 15 years. I'm not looking at this as being, you know, the next biggest podcast in the next year, 2 years, 5 years. I'm looking at it in 10 years,
Right.
having that. What I was getting at was, you don't have to think that I know what I'm talking about right now. It's a matter of coming along for the journey so that you can see in 10 years what I was able to do by going through hell, not the already hell I've gone through myself personally that I'm not sharing on an everyday basis, but the hell that I'm about to dive into in order to get myself to that level, which is seclusion, becoming somewhat of a recluse. You have to dive into your craft in a way in which that people will just not understand you, but they don't need to. Those people have gone through that to get, you know, to that level of success. I think those people who have gone through hell on their way to getting to where they want understand how great it is to be kind to other people.
Oh, holy.
And so that on their way up, everyone that they're passing will not say anything negative about them because they've been so gracious to other people. And there's the flip side. People will think I'm an idiot for saying it because you got to be cutthroat and you got to step on all over people and you'll get to the top.
You can be
quicker.
hungry and still have humility.
Yes, humility
And
is
I
such
think
a huge
that
thing.
I think that is the, and I won't say it's a problem, but it's something that we forgot to teach to others as we come up in whatever you do.
And if you're kind to other people, you know, they're more inclined to help you as you're becoming better.
Oh yeah, I've learned as much from nice DJs. I've met DJs that are, by all accounting purposes, some of the best in the world, and I've seen them perform. I've watched their hands. I've seen their music. I've seen them produce. I've seen them sit in the studio for hours. I've conversed with a lot of people, and when I look at that determination, I know I'm nowhere near that level yet. Like I don't even have a home studio finished.
Yeah.
And part of that is, you know, moving and things like that. But the other half of it is that person is driven. And I want to reflect that driven mentality on my own career, but I see it in their career as a positive push, not as a, oh man, that guy's got all that, I'm out.
No, you can never compare yourself to someone else.
Right.
And I don't understand why people do that. You can look at someone else doing what you're doing. You should research those who are living the life that you want.
Absolutely.
And learn from them. Like I do it all the time. I sit in front of my laptop and watch other people that do podcasts, but I also watch other people like you brought up Gordon Ramsay. I love that you did. I love the man. I aspire to be the man. He has a net worth of over 100 million. He's done quite a lot of stuff. His persona depicted through TV of being a certain way is part of his life. But the truth about him is he's actually a kind soul.
Absolutely.
He does want people to succeed, but he also wants them to understand what he went through to get to where he is.
Oh yeah. He cooked for some of the, and he and Bourdain,
My favorite.
rest in peace,
Yeah.
that great man. But he and Bourdain were both, and they even talked about it to each other. They have some, and I feel like Gordon Ramsay he misses that man more than most of us, because he says that man understood how the trenches were for fine dining to learn what now you can learn through education.
Yeah.
He said those guys they learned under the Michelin star chefs.
They are the juggernauts of what I do for a living, what I aspire. I'm 45 and I still aspire to be more like them.
Oh yeah.
Bourdain obviously wrote the book that changed my life, because I was reading a book written by a man that was speaking about what I was living every day and what they went through as young cooks to become chefs is nothing compared to what happens nowadays. People don't understand that. So Gordon Ramsay being the way he is, you know, it's for a reason. He was put through the trenches, and he wants people to understand what the truth is about hard work and discipline, and what hell really is that you need to go through in order to get to the success that you want.
I mean, that's why his show is called Hell's Kitchen,
There you
because
go.
through the fire, you have to go through it.
It's fire that forges
Absolutely.
the strongest steel.
Absolutely.
So you should not compare yourself to someone and saying, "Oh, why does he have this? Oh, he's got that. I can never do that." It's like, yeah, you can, But what you can't do is understand right now what it's actually going to take. I thought a certain way when I started developing Life Choices, which was about 4.5 years ago. I thought something differently after I launched, which was 2 years of development. I thought differently after a year and 10 months of having that company launched on YouTube, and I was doing food and travel, to then switch over to a podcast. I now think even differently 8 months after. We've only been up for, end of January 2023 is when I started thinking about doing the podcast. April 2023 is when I launched the podcast. And where we are now is a total different mindset, because I understand what discipline is from all aspects of your life that you have to put, like my meditation, my time with my dog, my going to work out every day, whether it's the gym, yoga, running, doesn't matter. A couple hours a day spending with my friends, discipline to do that, to show them that I care about them and that I'm intentionally there with them. And then the hours in a day that I spend at the laptop or with editing or with filming, like people don't really understand what that work ethic truly is in order to get you there. And that's the only reason why they say, oh, they have that, I can't get there. You can, but you have to be willing to go through hell.
Absolutely. And I think that applies. Like I'll give a couple parallels to it, because that's the walk and that's the journey that you're taking as you build this absolute amazing fortress of the life choices. Like you were saying, taking the discipline of doing things day in and day out not only establishes the patterns of success, but you can also see, and everybody learns this, somewhere in your pattern there may be a fluke. There may be a flaw. And when you see consistently what grows and doesn't grow, you can make those self-important decisions to change those directions because you have a pattern.
Yeah.
If you're doing 5 different things 4 different days a week and you don't know where am I not getting my connections? Where am I not reaching out this? Where am I being unsuccessful? Where am I unhappy about this aspect of my life? If you can't be mindful of yourself and your behaviors, you'll never recognize them. You'll never see your own speed bumps. You know what I mean?
You never learn from exactly
right.
what you're
You might
doing.
be wearing size 10s and you're a size 12. And you never know that, oh, my shoes are too small. Like you, for example, oh, my studio had to change.
Yeah. And that took me hiring a gentleman to do a job for a few months that I counted on, which I then dove into looking more
into what you could do yourself.
Yeah, I was looking for the right word, but like I was dissecting what it was I was watching with more clarity in my eyes, and realized what was going wrong. Now, for me, I'm lucky because everything I'm doing is being documented, so I can look back and actually have the visual.
See,
of
that
what
leads
was
to
wrong.
so much educational absorption too. Like you can just actually take things in and look at it full perspective. I think because people can see this and they might want to be in this chair.
I'm hoping they do. I really do.
Or they might want to be on the other side of that camera just hearing it all. Like, waiting in line for the next one, or knowing, on the next podcast they're going to talk to this, or it doesn't matter what he talks about. I love the voice. I love the words. I love the people. And I love the mindset of.
I want to develop such a wonderful community for Life Choices, and I want to create the team Life Choices to the point where people are reaching out because they see the potential in what this is going to become, and they want to be part of it from ground zero. They want to be the production setup crew. They want to be the filmmaker. They want to be the editing team. And these are all things that will come in time as I grow and I start generating revenue.
Well, you're magnetic though. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
People used to, when I first knew you, I knew you by name before I knew you in person.
Right.
And I remember people, oh man, when Birdman gets off the boat, we're going to have a great weekend. And I go, why is everybody so excited about the rapper from New Orleans? And you're like, no, it's the other Birdman. It's not Lil Wayne's mentor. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm still on board. I'm a little less on board.
Just a dude that cooks food, man.
But you would come off the ship and you'd be talking about whatever new recipe that you had created on your 18 to 36 day voyage, wherever you went. And 2, you would be genuinely excited to see and recharge the people around you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're stuck out sea, like we're not necessarily out at sea as in like crossing the Atlantic all the time, but when we're out on a trip or whatever, if I'm stuck in the Bahamas, I say stuck and people are like,
I was about
Bahamas.
to say, people say that all the time about where we live and where we party. It's like,
Yeah.
where we, the other day I was at St. Pete Beach and then went to the Bahamas.
Well,
It was terrible.
they gotta remember though, it's like, I'm working 16 to 18 hour days inside of a luxury vessel,
but it's a tight galley. You're still
I got a little window that I see.
It's not like they give you the master bedroom to cook in.
Not at all, dude. I'm sharing a room bunk bed style with some person that I may have just met.
Right, you still have a floating oven.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 16, 18 hour days on my feet. But yeah, when I hit land again and I got back, because I've been fortunate enough to come in and out of the port of West Palm Beach for 15 years, I've created such a wonderful family here. And back in the day when we were running around Roxy's I was there almost every single day. When I did get back, the first thing I did was like shower up, change, and get the fuck to the bar. And I loved interacting with everyone because I genuinely, I like to be by myself and have my private time, but I genuinely love people from an aspect of those who really appreciate you and appreciate those actual conversations, not the facade stuff.
Oh yeah, I feed on the positive, the positive energy that comes from being around like-minded and positive-minded individuals.
Yeah. There's always, but when I do go out and I see someone like Charlene, let's say, she's been
That's a connection.
She's been on the podcast,
right?
When I see her,
I saw her podcast with that. I watched that one.
She's such a delight. And honestly, like when I see her,
did she bring the dog, by the way?
No. And the excitement, that Charlene has when she sees someone that she hasn't seen in a while, it just makes you feel so good of a person.
Oh yeah. I've watched her part a crowd of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Because she saw me.
Yeah. And she does that for every human that she's
no one
come
else in the
contact
room
with.
might have known who she was, or
Right.
even who I am, depending upon where I'm playing sometimes. But oh yeah.
The excitement, yeah.
And that's what but that's, like I said, that's why I do it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love doing it well. Like
Right.
when you have that, like when you have when you have everybody just taking it in,
absorbing
and absorbing and appreciating it and loving it for what it is, just that.
It stems from the individual that you are, any one of us.
Yeah.
I've been a dickhead in my past. I've been selfish in my 20s. The person I am now has been created through all the stuff I've gone through and experienced and lived and seen and shared. And when you have that personality of warmth and willingness to either listen or talk, I think people are drawn to you in that aspect, and they hold on to that individual and what they bring to the table. And that is why when I do go out on occasion with the kid, with Hottie, with the old man, and we go downtown, and people that haven't seen me in a while, certain individuals, like you see, like they smile, and right away like, oh shit, they missed that interaction that they had with you before, which is quite nice.
It is.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the that's one of the benefits of not only doing what we do, but also the type of people that we get to be.
Yeah.
And that we choose to be.
Well, we get to change people's emotions through our craft.
Yeah.
And that I think is
That's
something
huge.
that not everyone gets to do in the job that they have in their day to day.
You get instant gratification, but you also, with that, and you and I both know it's a double-edged sword. You also get instant feedback if you're falling short.
Yeah.
There's no worse thing than seeing a negative reaction towards something that you're passionate about, knowing that it is solely you that can change that.
Absolutely. And on the same note is not taking it personally. It's going to hurt. It's going to sting a little bit because you don't want negative feedback, but knowing that the person that is giving you that information, they're not doing it to harm you. They're actually doing it to help you.
That's the only way you can grow.
Yes. And more people at a younger time in their career, I'm not saying age, just a younger time in their career, need to understand and not take things as personally, because more likely than not, the person or the information coming at you is there in order for you to be better tomorrow.
Well, people say all the time, sometimes you have to sift through the shit and find the corn.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to the lowest point in your lives as well as the harshest criticisms. Is there's always some substance to what they're saying, even if they're saying it in the worst way. Even if someone says, this is crap, and you think to yourself, all right, well, I know it's not crap, and he knows it's not crap. But maybe there's, maybe they don't like the taste dynamic of ponzu mixed with wasabi. All right, let me ease off on the wasabi. You're not that kind of guy or whatever.
Or another level of looking at it is maybe they just had a shit day.
Right.
And we don't know what they're going through. And it doesn't matter what you put in front of them, what track you play or what dish you put in front of them. They already have their backup because they had shit happen to them earlier.
And we talk about that all the time. If you limit your mindset, if you go into not only a situation, if you go into a restaurant, if you go into a club, if you go into a bar, if you go into a room with an expectation, you're either going to be very comfortable when they break that expectation, or that expectation is going to break you.
Yeah.
Because if you go into a restaurant, you get exactly what you think you're going to eat. It tastes exactly the way you wanted it to taste, or you thought it was going to taste, and you walk back out, you are satisfied. But that's satisfaction over time doesn't work for anyone. No one is just purely satisfied.
Yeah.
You need
more.
The peaks, but you also need the valleys. So for every amazing, like you need that mind blown. You need to like the comfort circle,
Well, you need that mind blowing dish to eat at that phenomenal restaurant, but you also need that absolutely disgusting meal that you had, because you need to know what the appreciation level is on that and figure out where you lie. Am I going to be able to eat these meals all the time? Probably not. Do I want to eat these meals all the time? Absolutely not. But in order to experience it all, as in life, good and bad, nothing stays for too long. You're going to experience this sometimes. You're going to experience that sometimes. You have to be okay and accepting of all the bad and be grateful for all the good.
But it also gives you motivation for growth. Like from knowing people like you, I know my cooking is elevated over time.
Wonderful.
Just like knowing people like me, your musical choices.
Oh, my musical knowledge,
right.
my experience of standing beside you in the DJ booth and watching you, create an atmosphere for other individuals that are just having the most amazing time. Songs that I probably wouldn't know who the artist is. A whole set where I'm just like, well, fuck, man, I didn't know any of those songs at all, but they were fucking awesome.
Everyone's feeling it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that point. You definitely learn from the people that you are around, and better if you don't do the same thing they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Two points on what you said when it comes to expectations. One, when it comes to restaurants, for me, being that food has been my life since I was 14, the only expectation I have going into a restaurant is the expectation that they are giving. So there's different levels of restaurants, different styles. If a restaurant has white linen on their table, they're setting a precedent.
You're starting at a tier.
You're saying this is what we do. And when I walk into a restaurant that I can see white linen on the table, I'm expecting shit to go off the hook from the hostess stand.
Absolutely.
From the person when I open up that door, greeting me with a smile and saying, hello, how are you?
You pay for the price point of that perfection.
Yeah.
And when certain people are like, well, everyone has a good and bad day. Yes, but in your level of professionalism, you drop that at the door because the expectations of your clientele should be met. Like you said, you walk in and you see white linen. If you see a hostess sitting there on her phone not looking up, you're like,
oh, I'm already like,
terrible
this might not be a great restaurant.
Right.
That. And then that white linen, you order the scallops or the spinach, and it's sauteed in a pan that has a bit of a burnt flavor. Now, not everyone can taste that. I can.
Absolutely.
My palate is different. I haven't just eaten to put substance in my body for 30 some odd years. I've eaten to understand what that flavor is and where it elevates an actual taste. But then, I go to a pub. I'm not expecting fancy food. If I get it, awesome, but I'm expecting really good pub food. If you have wings, they better be fucking good.
Right.
If I'm in an Irish pub, I would assume bangers and mash.
Right.
I would assume pot pie, shepherd's pie, things of these nature, but done really well. We're lucky when it comes to Roxy's. John hired Jimmy, and he is just a phenomenal chef. One of the best out there.
Jimmy is amazing, and even before him, Naya
was phenomenal.
There's been mind-blowing men in that kitchen.
And that pub food has been elevated to it's not just a pub to go have wings and beer. It's an establishment to go eat. Yeah. The other point with expectations is when people have expectations of others, I think you need to lose that, because the only expectation you should have is within yourself. People will disappoint you. People will amaze you. You can't let them or their actions dictate what you're going to do. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is that you want to go after, whatever it is that you want to become, lies on your shoulders. Eventually, you'll have a team. Eventually, you'll have the support. But to start off with, and the start off point could be a few years, you're by yourself. You might have one or two people that are there for you, but at the end of the day, you are doing everything. To wrap it up with the expectations.
I'll come back in a few seasons.
Oh, not a few seasons. I fucking like in a month. Yeah, like next season. Like
Absolutely.
Yeah. But with expectations, you should expect only to get out what you put in. I always tell people when you're low, appreciate it.
You learn a lot.
Really allow yourself to feel and understand what that is that's going on. Don't dwell on it. Absorb it, let it in, understand that right now I feel like shit. Right now, today knocked me on my ass. Okay, that's fine. What am I going to learn from this?
Right.
I'm going to brush it off. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to start tomorrow a new day. And let's see if we can go up from here. Because the greatest thing is a person, this is a great quote that I came across. The greatest thing is a person who goes through fire and is appreciated and grateful that they can still walk.
You have to see the world that way to grow.
Yeah. I think that's an excellent point to finish up on.
Absolutely.
Is putting yourself in other people's shoes to understand that what you might be going through might not be half as hard as what someone else does every single day.
That's how you make life choices, man.
Exactly. I love that. And we are going to end on that. Carter, thank you so very much for coming by today. I appreciate it. Great conversation. Not a surprise. We've always had good talks
here,
in the bar.
Thanks
and whatnot.
for inviting me.
So yeah, we'll have you back on here to get more into those other topics we wanted to. I want to thank all my lifers out there for coming by every week here Tuesday at 2 and watching the Lyfe Choyces podcast. For all of you newcomers that are watching or listening to us on Spotify or any of the audio platforms that we're on, I want to thank you for coming out as well. If you want to get in contact to find out where and when DJ Kid Carter will be spinning, we'll have that information just down below here in the description.
Nice and simple.
Our email is down below, plus all of our social media areas in which you can see us. If you want to be on the show, you can send us an email. The email is just down below here as well. Like, share, comment, hit the bell to be notified to see what's coming out next here on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Again, genuinely just love that everyone's coming out week after week, and our community is growing little by little every single week. If you want to be part of the Lyfe Choyces team in the future, and there's something that you think you can bring to the table, by all means, again, shoot us an email. I'd love to have a conversation with you. If you run a podcast and you'd like to collaborate, I'm more than happy to come to you on your podcast and have a chit chat as well. Once again, Carter, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Kid Carter with 2 Ks.
There it is, right down in the below part. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for coming by here on the Lyfe Choyces podcast, and we will see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m.
Absolutely.
Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You are now about
The Journey, Lyfe Choyces podcast.